Hi, welcome to the History Buffs, and today we're going to be talking about the Nicaraguan Civil War. After World War II, the US and the USSR were the two leading world powers, both equipped with atomic and nuclear weapons. Tension emerged between the two superpowers because of their ideological differences. The US pledged against totalitarianism, communism, and Marxism, while Russia was pushing to spread communism and was strongly against capitalism. These two countries strived to have the most strategic influence around the world, pushing their ideologies onto politically unstable countries. Although there was no direct armed combat between the two superpowers, these ideological differences often led to civil wars in developing nations. One of these nations was Nicaragua.
The Nicaraguan government is heavily dependent on its banana export.
In Nicaragua, political unrest began during dictator Anastasio Somoza's reign. In 1956, Somoza was assassinated, and for 5 years after his death, a communist party known as the Sandinistas were established. Political unrest flared up during the Sandinistas' presence in Nicaragua, and the country was soon divided. In 1972, the already divided nation experienced an earthquake in its capital of Managua, worsening conditions for the poor and prompting several revolts. The government's inefficiency was brought to light when it did not provide sufficient care for its victims, and the economy was destroyed.
The earthquake was especially significant to Nicaragua because it devastated the banana plantations, which were a vital part of its economy.
Nearly half of Managua's population was homeless after the earthquake. All these factors merged with the constant rising poverty rate, and the economic disparity led to the Nicaraguan Revolution in 1981.
The USSR and the US both saw Nicaragua as a potential nation to impose their ideology upon. The United States funded a rebel group called the Contras and imposed a trade embargo for 5 years despite the current Communist Party, the Sandinistas. Nicaragua started a revolution due to America's encouragement when the Soviets saw a good chance to demonstrate its influence of communism. On January 4, 1982, President Ronald Reagan signed the top-secret National Security Decision Directive, giving the CIA the authority to recruit and support the Contras with $19 million in military aid as a component of the Reagan Doctrine, a subsection that called for providing support to anti-communist movements. The U.S. was banned from funding the Contras. However, Reagan still found the money to fund this anti-communist group by selling illegal arms to Iran, an enemy of the U.S. at the time. The U.S. played a very large role in financing, training, arming, and advising the Contras for almost a decade, and only the Contras became capable of carrying out significant military operations as a result of this support.
During the Contras' war against the Nicaraguan government, they frequently committed a large number of human rights violations and terrorist tactics. However, the Reagan administration downplayed these violations in order to justify their support for the Contras. The Contras kidnapped and tortured civilians, raped women, and targeted healthcare clinics, burned entire towns, and seized numerous civilian-owned properties. The communist-funded Sandinistas forced citizens to flee the country. The Nicaraguan people were caught between a rock and a hard place, under the brutal totalitarianism regime of the Sandinistas and the cruel torment of the Contras.
During the 1980s, Nicaragua was the center of Cold War confrontation in the Western Hemisphere, with the former Soviet Union and Cuba providing assistance to the Sandinista government, while the United States supported anti-government forces. A regional peace initiative was brought to end the Civil War in 1990. The Sandinistas lost in the 1990 elections, and a new government headed by President Chamorro was installed of April of 1990. However, Daniel Ortega, the Nicaraguan president from 1985 to 1990 and the political candidate for the Sandinista Party, has been in power since 2007.
Thanks for watching History Buffs. Come back next week for a new video.